the ARNO shoes VISHIVANKA boot in GAUCHO KUDU. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dale of Dale's Leatherworks, and in today's video I'm incredibly excited to be reviewing a pair of boots that just sent over to me by my buddy Michael. I had the pleasure of meeting Michael in Industry City during the Stitch Down boot camp. He was one of the first people I met walking in. I was standing there with John of Happiness Carpenter, and I happened to meet Michael. So it was awesome meeting him in person. He is a super nice guy. So I hope to do this video justice. Michael is offering some killer makeups on his site. So let's open them up and see what we're dealing with. First and foremost, I really love the logo, the branding on there. You got some beautiful boot bags, nice branded tissue paper as well. And look at these bad boys. Whew! The cats love it too. Branded boot bags, awesome. Absolutely wild. All right, so talking to Michael about these, he says these are the GAUCHO KUDU in waxy retan. GAUCHO KUDU is going to be a KUDU from Charles F. Stead. This stuff is pretty hard to source. I've tried to look into getting KUDU myself, and it's kind of hard to get if you're not like a well-connected boot maker. The most obvious thing that I noticed right off the bat, the most striking thing, and I know you're seeing it too, is this embroidered tab here that appear on all boots on both sides. It's not just on the interior or the anterior sides. It's actually on both sides. So here's what Michael has to say about that. He says, it's actually traditional Ukrainian embroidery. We typically have it as a decoration around shirt collars and cuffs. I had the idea of adding it to a boot. These are actually made by my friend's godmother who lives in Ukraine. And I told him I am 1/4 Ukrainian. My grandmother was 100% Ukrainian, and my grandfather is 100% Czech. So I have a lot of blood from that region, Eastern Europe. Yeah, and I asked him if Michael's Ukrainian heritage is what led him to put that into the boots as sort of like an homage to Ukrainian culture. And he said it's not the reason. He said it's mostly because it looks cool, but part of the motivation is definitely how homogenized our clothing is. It's a nice way to bring back some ethnic cultural stuff in a modern setting. Yes, absolutely. And on a personal anecdote, you know, I grew up eating all ethnic Ukrainian food at my grandma's house. We'd have what we called soup. We'd have pierogies all the time. We'd have what we called kibasi. We would have what my grandma called pigs in the blanket, which is actually known regionally as chalubki, which are like, so it's ground meat mixed with rice, and then you wrap it in cabbage leaves, and it forms sort of like this almost dumpling appearance, and then you baste that in like a tomato sauce, like a watery tomato sauce, and those were one of my favorite things to eat growing up. But yeah, the pierogies, the soup, what you would call soup, I actually found out was borscht, because one day I was with some of my buddies, and they asked me if I wanted to go eat at a Russian restaurant. And I'm like, I've never been to a Russian restaurant or even had Russian food. So yeah, let's try it. And I went, and it was so funny because literally everything that we ordered, I had grown up eating. I had no idea I was eating, quote, Russian food growing up. That's just kind of my own personal anecdote. I grew up very much not understanding or appreciating my Ukrainian or Eastern European heritage very much, but I very much grew up in that sort of environment. So when I meet people from Ukraine, we have a lot in common. Like I talk to them, and almost all the food that I grew up eating, they have in common. All right, so this is called the VISHIVANKA boot. He offers it in a few colors. He offers it in turmeric KUDU, which very much looks like Coach Rambler that I'm wearing right now. That's right, folks. My recent Truman Boots video talked so much about Rambler. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach for my Coach. I've been putting those off for long enough. All right, so yes, the turmeric VISHIVANKA boot is very much using the same exact recipe of colors in the Coach Rambler. It's the same in the turmeric Rambler. And why do I know that? I know that because I'm familiar enough with Stead's leathers to know, okay, they basically, for my Coach Rambler, took the flesh out and dyed it this orangey color. And then for the turmeric Rambler, they took the same exact color recipe and applied it to the KUDU. So they call that turmeric Rambler. So it's the same color recipe. This GAUCHO KUDU, I'm pretty sure is kind of similar to these Trumans. These are my Trumans, and I can't remember the name of these. But these are essentially the same thing, except there's something else going on here. As you can see, this GAUCHO KUDU has a little bit more yellowing going on, whereas these Trumans are a little bit more of a bone, chalky complexion, and the reason being is this KUDU has a waxy retan on it. So if I were to condition these up, basically yellowing would start to occur. I'm pretty sure. I'm fairly certain. I'm not sure that they applied much in the way of pigments. These could be natural. Yeah, these ARNO shoes could be natural, but I'm not 100% sure. This is conjecture. But when we're dealing with leather, you know, there's so many different ways to achieve different outcomes, cosmetic outcomes. But I had some GAUCHO Truman boots before, and they were not this yellowy color. They turned more yellowy as I wore them. When they started out, they were more this bone chalky color. And they also run the VISHIVANKA boot in black bison. So the VISHIVANKA is an homage to Mikhail's Ukrainian roots. The inlays are traditional embroidery, hand-stitched by Dasha, who lives in Ivano-Frankivsk region of Ukraine. The patterns differ by region and have many symbolism and meaning, often used to decorate traditional shirts called Vishivanki. So, okay, Vishivanka, I guess, is a type of traditional shirt. This particular pattern is from the Hutsul people of Western Ukraine, and it's unique because instead of a typical cross stitch, this pattern is created using a series of vertical stitches. In an age where traditional ethnic attire has been replaced by the same blue jeans and suits, we've infused a little bit of tradition and culture into the modern look. All right, so these VISHIVANKA boots in GAUCHO KUDU retail at 600 buckaroonies. Sleek and elegant while still maintaining rugged durability, the VISHIVANKA boot can be as unassuming or loud as you want it. Roll up your pants to show off the pop of color in the inlay or keep it covered for a more formal look. KUDU leather is sourced from animals that roam the wild. Each hide carries its own distinct scrapes and striations. This means that every pair of boots is one of a kind, telling its own story. It is tanned at Charles F. Stead Tannery in the UK, and its characteristics are a soft and pliable feel while still clocking in at a hefty 2.5 millimeter thickness. This particular finish is retanned with waxes and oils, which gives it a waterproof element. This embroidery pattern is from the Hutsul people of Ukraine, and it is unique because instead of a typical cross stitch, this pattern is created using a series of vertical stitches. Sizing is true to size. If you're an 11 Brannock, you should take an 11. If you prefer a roomier fit, size up half a size. So we've got GAUCHO KUDU uppers from Charles F. Stead, 6 millimeter thick vegetable tanned insole, hybrid Goodyear welt construction. The welt is stitched directly to the insole without the use of canvas gemming. Vegetable tan calf lining with a colorful heel stripe, natural veg tan midsole, Vibram 430 outsole, brass hardware. They recommend occasional brushing and a light conditioner. These boots have a pull-up effect and will lighten with wear. If you want to restore the rich original color, you can condition them with a heavy conditioner such as OK oil. So as for sizing, he actually sent me these boots and he sent me 9.5s. Now I am a 9 Brannick. I wear 8.5 in most US boot brands. He didn't have a 9 on hand to send me. I tried them on. They're comfortable. I could tell though they are a half size large. I would definitely go for true to size in this brand. So a 9 is what I would opt for. That said, the last is pretty narrow, as you can see, and it is long. So I just knew that if I held on to these, that the sizing would just be a little off. In the interest of helping Michael, his business strong and thriving, I want him to be able to resell these. So these are, I believe, going to one of his friends. So that's just my tidbit on sizing. I'm an 8.5 Red Wing, I'm an 8.5 Truman, UK 8 in Viberg, UK 8 in Trickers, 8.5 in most everything else, but I am a 9 in Spanish brands like Unmarked and Bordon, and so that's just a little indication. So yeah, definitely true to size. Don't size down because you can see this last is pretty narrow and pretty long. It's got an elongated toe, just like the Anunnaki had those elongated skulls. Just looking at the character of this boot, it is unreal. We got some really gnarly scratch marks and character throughout the grain of the leather. I love it. I'm just looking at the left boot now, and I'm going to have to film these in 4K because I really want to capture all the detail. What else is really cool is they included the numerical stamp from the tannery right here, 2882. Now, most makers exclude that during the clicking process, so the fact that they left that in, I know a lot of people would freak out if they saw something like this. I absolutely love it. I think it's really cool. I try to include this stuff in areas of my bags that are like sort of unseen, like underneath a flap or something. You open it up and you see it. I like to see that stuff. I am a professional anthropologist after all. Just kidding. But I just like to see the human traces, the steps taken in my garment. I believe garments can be appreciated much more when you see little Easter eggs, little hints of what the previous handlers left behind. And so obviously the original handler, the KUDU itself, had one hell of a rough life because I'm seeing all kinds of scars, probably thorn scratches, probably a lot of follicle marks, maybe some fat creases. And the KUDU leather itself, I've reviewed a lot of KUDU, and it's got a really nice sort of dry feel to the hand. That's because of the nature of the open pores on the surface. And then, wow, looking at the right boot is definitely my favorite of the two. The toe on the right boot is so gnarly. Now, this is one of those cases where both boots are not going to match each other. So know what you're getting into if you're ordering KUDU. They will not be the same boot. No two boots will ever be the same. It's like fingerprints. They're unique, entirely unique to your own DNA. And so there's just no way to get consistency. And you shouldn't even have consistency in mind when buying something like this. It shouldn't even be a thought. Wow, yeah, that toe is unreal. I think part of my fascination between analyzing the grain and just looking at this stuff is, as a kid, I grew up collecting fossils. Just always deeply, deeply curious about the past. Wow, and the right boot on this quarter panel, more amazing stripe. It looks like scratch marks. Maybe it was attacked by a tiger. No, I highly doubt that. To my knowledge, most of these skins come from hunters. The hunters go out, they hunt the KUDU, and they take the meat, and then they sell the skins off to tanners. And if they could get the skins to a tanner quickly enough, then they could be utilized for leather. So that's just my understanding of it. And then, yeah, the embroidered inlay is very beautiful. It's got really unique patterning, like diamond patterning. There's whites, blacks, greens, oranges, yellows, reds. Yeah, it's really quite intricate and beautiful. And then we've got all eyelets all the way up, no speed hooks, an ARNO inlaid branded heel seat in there, ARNO 9.5, and on the inside of the tongue it says only the finest will do. And then we've got a strip of green suede running the length of the back of the heel, because that suede facing inward will actually adhere to your sock and prevent heel slip. So that's cool design thinking as well. So these are made in Mexico. So similar operation to, like, say, Christian Daniel, who is a guy that works in the States, lives in the States, but outsources to Mexico. Leon is basically the footwear manufacturing center of the world. If you wanted to start your own line, you could very well do the same thing. I want to talk about their story because this is, to me, always the most interesting part. So, handmade in the heart of Leon, Mexico, one of the world's global shoe capitals, ARNO shoes are more than just footwear. They're a testament to timeless quality and exceptional design. Our boots are meticulously crafted to stand the test of time. Made from high-quality leather, they combine durability with comfort, making them versatile companions for any occasion. The sleek last and overall comfort ensure that these boots seamlessly transition from day to night. From the office to dinner and from farm grounds to city sidewalks, we created ARNO out of our shared passion for thoughtful handcraft. In a world of fast fashion, shoes are often made to look good on the shelf with the added bonus of a low price tag. The downside is, those shoes disintegrate quickly, lasting a few years before the uppers start looking aged and the soles come unglued. The materials most shoes are made of are derived from fossil fuels, which will either release carbon back into the atmosphere when burned or end up taking up space in a landfill for a few millennia. ARNO embraces the idea of slow fashion. Shoes are made with traditional manufacturing methods meant to be worn hard for decades and repaired when needed to extend their life. We use leather from the most respected tanneries in the world who conform to industry standards on sustainability. One of our favorite leathers to work with, KUDU, is on the more sustainable end of the spectrum. The animal's not farmed, it lives in the wild, and it is hunted for its meat, as well as its hide. We use veg tanning where we can, as the materials can break down long after your use more readily and safely. A little bit about Mikhail Bliskavka. I hope I'm not butchering any of these Ukrainian words, by the way. I'm doing my best. As cliche as it sounds, I recently found myself turning into a bit of a Renaissance man. After serving in the U.S. Coast Guard and then the Air Force as a reservist, I went to school for electrical engineering. During my studies, I stumbled into the world of crafted handmade shoes through the Goodyear Welt subreddit. What drew me in was the styling and the look. What kept me interested in the craftsmanship and the built-to-last mentality. In our disposable world, here is something that's meant to last. Get better with age. Show your story with every scuff and patina. Once it wears out, you can take it to a cobbler and get it refurbished with a new sole, just like in the olden days. After being a collector for a while, I met Chuck, the owner of Tulsa Shoe Rebuilders. Towards the end of my studies, I ended up hanging out at his shop a lot during downtime, and ended up making a pair of Chukka boots with his coaching. Having a tangible result from my effort, something functional and beautiful made by my own hands, was an exhilarating experience. I was hooked. So much that I enrolled in the shoemaking course at Stefano Bemmer in Florence, Italy, a few months later. The shoemaking school was probably the best time of my life thus far. It feels like a dream sometimes, living in the heart of Florence's old town with centuries of culture and history around you. I lived and breathed shoes during my time there. All of us were so passionate about the craft we would spend all day making shoes and then go out and spend all evening together talking about shoes. I learned techniques that have been in use for hundreds of years, making shoes entirely by hand using natural materials and doing it with the best group of people I could have ever hoped for. The only way you can learn this is through constant practice and a drive for continuous improvement. The end result is a pair of shoes that will last a lifetime, something that will evolve with age, accumulating memories more, along with a beautiful patina. It's humbling to carry on that legacy, try to pass on some of it to others, which is how my blog started and my Instagram transformed. This is the drive behind ARNO. We want to bring this craft quality and a unique blend of European styling with American sensibility to fashion. And then, so let's talk about Christine O'Leary, who I also met at the Stitch Down boot camp. Having moved to Florence on a whim after living in New York City working in media and event production, I stumbled into the world of shoemaking looking for a job in the Italian city. I was contemplating throwing in the towel when my friend got me an interview at Stefano Bemmer. They needed someone who was eager and could learn quickly. I was paired with their shoe finishing extraordinaire, who kindly and patiently taught me the meditative art of shoe polishing and tassel making, coached me through the daunting task of taking a $5,000 bespoke shoe to the belt sander, how to use a knife and not slice my fingers off, how to use gerbafill without fainting, and how to confidently burn initials onto perfected leather violin soles. It was so much fun learning and mastering these new skills elicited a certain kind of confidence, and like Mikhail, I was hooked. A passion for shoe culture awakened inside me. I eventually went on to work with customers on their one-of-a-kind designs, getting to know clients' unique styles, helping them to design their dream shoes, and then holding the final result was a thrill for us both. Not only did I love the shoemaking process, but also the collaboration and satisfaction of the client really filled me with joy. That's when I rediscovered that my grandfather had been a shoemaker in Ireland when my dad was a kid. I was surprised to hear my dad using all the shoemaking jargon when I told him about my new passion. When my time at Stefano Bemmer was coming to an end, I knew I wanted to continue to be part of this world, and that's where Michael and Arno come in. I truly hope you love your Arno shoes, and I will be at the other end of the line with any questions or suggestions you might have for future products. Oh, well, and then there's a picture of what I assume is her grandfather, P.C. Leary Bootmaking and Repairing. Wow. All right, so they don't just run the VISHIVANKA, they also have what's called the BLKBRD. They have that in tobacco suede KUDU. They have it in russet KUDU, in Loden suede. Ooh, those are sweet. Loden suede's always cool. And then buffalo black cherry. The BLKBRD appears to be a side zip Chelsea boot design. Very beautiful. Very nice. Unique patterning. I love it. That is so cool. And that's not all. They also have one-of-a-kind shoes. Whoa, so they're running the BLKBRD, the Big Safari. Whoa, what is this? This I have to see. It appears to be a hair-on hide zebra hide, if I'm not mistaken, and then what looks like a brown rough out on the front panel. Ghost shell chukkas. Whoa. Russian grain buckle boots. Wow, those are awesome. Natural shark hole cut in the BLKBRD in black KUDU. But I want to look at these Russian grain boots. Wow. Yeah, those are unreal. Yeah, so these are a recreation of the World War II French paratrooper boots. The leather is sourced from J and F J Baker, the British tannery's replica of the legendary Russian reindeer leather that was discovered from a shipwreck after 200 years underwater. This is as close as you could get to the original tanning techniques of those hides. The leather is so saturated with waxes and oils that it develops a grayish bloom over time that adds to the vintage look. If that is something you don't care for, a simple brushing will remove it. And those very much remind me of these World War II era cavalry tanker boots that I reviewed. I'm fascinated by stuff like this, especially stuff that goes back to times of my grandfathers and things like that. We got the double buckle up here. We got the flap up here. But anyways, it's really cool to see them, sort of pursuing their passion. This very much feels like a passion project and a pursuit, an explorational type pursuit. I love to see it. It's so cool. And so, yeah, even looking at their shoe lab, it looks like they have a lot of stuff going on. I assume this is stuff Michael made himself. Wow. A lot of crazy stuff, a lot of experimenting going on. Dang. And what's cool about this is, so this is basically his blog. He's just making stuff and sharing every item that he crafts along in his journey, and just a lot of beautiful designs and makeups. And I mean, the sky is really the limit. With that, I'll start shutting it down. Arno Shoes, Michael and Christine, fascinating new company that I have the privilege of reviewing. I am very stoked for this company. I can't wait to see what they do next. And I also want to say thank you to everybody who chimed in on my last video, that is Truman Boots shutting down video. I know I said I'm going to start toning down on the editing. I think what I'm going to do, thank you everybody for your input. It's very valuable input. I think what I'm going to do moving forward is, for videos like this, where I'm doing like sort of an initial deep dive on a brand, learning about them, getting my hands on the first pair, I'm going to give like a good, thorough, lengthy, well-edited review. But then after that, after I've done the first one, I'm going to sort of do more streamlined, shorter, less edited reviews. So thank you everybody for your feedback. I want to let you know that I listen to you, even though this video is definitely going to be highly edited. That's kind of how I'm going to balance it going on from here. Staying engaged with YouTube, I love it. It's a passion project of mine. It really is. But for me to do like the heavily edited stuff all the time, because I don't have an editor, I do it all myself. It just gets to be a lot, and then my productivity starts to wane because I can't get through projects quick enough. And I've said this before, I look at other YouTubers, they literally just wake up, they go live stream, they catch a news story they want to talk about, and they start live streaming, and they live stream for 4 hours that day. And it's like, there's no editing involved. It's just simple, natural, and I kind of want to get back to that a little bit, though I have developed some fun editing skills, and I want to still bring you guys well-edited videos. So point is, both formats are very much still on the table. All right, anyways, with that, I'll shut it down. Thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, I want to hear all your thoughts about Arno shoes in the description below, and I will also include a link to Arno shoes in the description, so go shop around there and support my buddy Mikhail and Christine with their new endeavor. Thanks so much for watching, guys. End of transmission.